What if everything you see, hear, taste, touch, and feel isn't real? What if our entire universe, with its swirling galaxies, ancient trees, bustling cities, and even the very thoughts buzzing in your head, is just an incredibly elaborate computer program? It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? A wild fantasy from a movie or a book. But believe it or not, this mind-bending idea, known as the simulation hypothesis, is being seriously considered by some of the most brilliant scientists and philosophers on our planet. So, could we be living in a simulation? Let's dive deep into this fascinating question and explore why it's not as crazy as it first sounds. Why it's plausible. Imagine, for a moment, a video game. A really, really good one. One where the graphics are so realistic, the characters so lifelike, the world so vast and detailed that you can barely tell it apart from reality. Now, think about how far video games have come in just a few decades, from simple pixelated figures to photorealistic worlds where you can almost feel the wind on your face. It's a staggering leap, isn't it? This rapid advancement is one of the key reasons the simulation hypothesis gains traction. Our own technology is hurtling towards creating virtual realities that are increasingly indistinguishable from the real thing. We're already exploring the metaverse, developing sophisticated AI, and building supercomputers with unimaginable processing power. If we, a civilization still relatively young in cosmic terms, are making such progress, what could a civilization millions or even billions of years more advanced than us achieve? They might possess computing power so immense it's beyond our current comprehension. With such power, they could potentially create entire simulated universes, complete with sentient beings who believe their reality is the only one. These wouldn't be simple video games. They could be ancestor simulations, incredibly detailed recreations of the past, run by a future civilization wanting to understand its own history, or perhaps just for pure scientific curiosity. If that's possible, then the chances that we are one of those ancestor simulations suddenly don't seem quite so impossible. But it's not just about how powerful computers could become. Look around you. The universe seems to operate on incredibly precise mathematical rules, from the elegant spirals of galaxies to the way light bends, from the orbits of planets to the tiniest subatomic particles. Everything can be described with mathematical equations. Physics, in its deepest sense, is essentially a description of these mathematical laws. Think about it. What is a computer program at its core? It's a set of mathematical rules, algorithms, and logical instructions that dictate how a system behaves. The universe's fundamental reliance on mathematics, its predictable and consistent laws, has led some to wonder if this isn't simply the code upon which our reality is built. It's almost as if the universe has a source code, written in the language of numbers. Bostrom's simulation argument. Now, let's talk about a man named Nick Bostrom. He's a philosopher at the University of Oxford, and in 2003, he published a paper that truly catapulted the simulation hypothesis into mainstream scientific discussion. Bostrom argued that at least one of three possibilities must be true. The first possibility is that civilizations almost always go extinct before they reach a technological stage capable of running highly realistic ancestor simulations. Maybe we destroy ourselves with war, environmental collapse, or some unforeseen cosmic catastrophe. If this is true, then no super-advanced civilizations exist to create simulations, so we couldn't be living in one. The second possibility is that if civilizations do reach a super-advanced stage, they almost always choose not to run ancestor simulations. Perhaps they consider it unethical, or they simply aren't interested. If this is true, again, no simulations means we're not in one. But here's the kicker, the third possibility. If neither of those first two statements is true, meaning that at least some civilizations do become super advanced, and at least some of them do choose to run ancestor simulations. Then we are almost certainly living in a simulation right now. Think about the numbers. If a single super advanced civilization decided to run even a modest number of ancestor simulations, say 1,000, and each of those simulations contained 1 billion simulated beings, that's 1 trillion simulated individuals for every real individual in the base reality. The sheer probability dictates that if advanced civilizations exist and run simulations, then the overwhelming majority of consciousnesses would be simulated ones. It's like finding a single natural pebble among a mountain of perfectly identical manufactured pebbles. Which one are you more likely to be? It's a powerful and undeniably thought-provoking argument that forces us to seriously consider the possibility. Universe's hidden glitches? Of course, the simulation hypothesis is just that, a hypothesis. There's no definitive proof, but some scientists and philosophers have looked to certain unexplained phenomena in our universe and wondered if they could be clues or glitches in the cosmic code. Take quantum mechanics, for example. It's the physics of the very, very small, atoms and subatomic particles, and it's incredibly weird. One of the most famous examples is the double-slit experiment. When you fire tiny particles, like electrons, at a screen with 2 slits, they act like waves, creating an interference pattern on a detector behind the screen. But here's the astonishing part. If you try to observe which slit each particle goes through, they suddenly stop acting like waves and behave like individual particles, going through one slit or the other. It's as if the act of observation changes reality. Now, in a computer simulation, rendering every single detail of the universe at all times would require an unimaginable amount of processing power. What if, just like in a video game that only renders the details of the scene you're currently looking at, our universe only fully renders reality when we're observing it? The quantum weirdness of particles changing their behavior based on observation could, hypothetically, be interpreted as the simulation saving computing power. It only computes the full, definitive state of things when someone is actively looking. Then there are the fundamental limits in nature. The speed of light, for instance. Nothing can travel faster than light. Is this a cosmic speed limit, or is it a built-in processor speed limit of our simulated universe? Similarly, physicists have discovered what's called the Planck length and Planck time, the smallest possible units of distance and time. Below these scales, our current understanding of physics breaks down. Some speculate these could be the ultimate pixels or frames per second of our simulated reality, the smallest discrete units beyond which the simulation cannot render further detail. Again, let's be absolutely clear. None of these clues are proof. Quantum mechanics has other explanations, and fundamental limits are cornerstones of our physics. But they are fascinating coincidences, pieces of the cosmic puzzle that, for some, fit rather neatly into the simulation hypothesis. Meaning in simulation. So, where does this leave us? We've explored the incredible possibilities of future computing, the mathematical elegance of our universe, Bostrom's compelling argument, and even some intriguing clues. But perhaps the most profound question isn't whether we are in a simulation, but rather, even if we were, would it actually change anything? If our reality is a simulation, does that make our experiences less real? Does it make our joys, our sorrows, our love, our striving less meaningful? If a beautiful sunset is merely code, does it make it any less breathtaking to behold? If a delicious meal is just a series of data inputs, does it make it any less satisfying to taste? For many, the answer is no. Our reality, whatever its ultimate nature, is real to us. The feelings we feel, the connections we make, the discoveries we pursue. These are all profoundly real experiences within the framework of our existence. Whether the universe is made of atoms, strings, or code, a tree is still a tree, a friend is still a friend, and a moment of wonder is still a moment of wonder. Perhaps understanding that we might be living in a simulation doesn't diminish our lives. Instead, it expands our sense of wonder even further. It opens up an entirely new dimension of possibility and mystery. It reminds us that reality itself is far more intricate and mind-bending than we could ever imagine. And if we are in a simulation, who are the simulators? And are they, in turn, in another simulation? The rabbit hole goes infinitely deep. The journey to understand our universe, whether it's a fundamental reality or a sophisticated program, is perhaps the most exciting adventure of all. It invites us to keep asking questions, to keep exploring, and to keep marveling at the boundless mysteries that surround us. Because no matter what reality turns out to be, our capacity for curiosity, for discovery, and for shared wonder, that will always be profoundly real. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.